There were 26 people at my mother's table, but no room for my daughter. I'm Stephanie Morgan, 42, an ER trauma nurse in Oregon, and last night my 16-year-old, Maya, came home from Christmas Eve at her grandparents', still in her coat carrying untouched cookies, because my mother, Helen, told her there wasn't a seat. My father, Raymond, looked away. My sister, Carla, stayed silent. 26 plates, neighbors and bridge club friends included. Not one for my child. I've spent 8 years quietly paying every bill on the house my parents live in, a house deeded in my name. They thought guilt would keep me funding the cruelty. They forgot I'm a mother before I'm a daughter. Tomorrow, a certified 60-day notice goes out, and every automatic payment stops. If they won't make room for Maya at their table, I'll stop setting the table for their comfort. If this hits home, tap like and subscribe, then tell me. Have you ever been shut out by your own family? The ache didn't begin with Christmas Eve. It started in silent increments, monthly transfers, polite phone calls, and humiliations wrapped up as jokes. For 8 years, I paid the bills for the house my parents lived in. Mortgage, utilities, property tax, insurance, maintenance. I told myself I was helping after Dad lost his job. Guilt became a habit. That morning, I read the register like evidence. $1,300 every month, 12 months a year for 8 years. $1,300 and 12 euros, $15,600 per year. $15,600 use 8 euros, $124,800. $124,800. Money I'd given while my daughter learned to ask for art supplies and got socks instead of Apple Watches. The receipts cut deeper than the totals. Laptops and tuition for nieces and nephews, a $1,000 gift for coding classes, while Maya's school awards were dismissed as trivial. Grandma said there wasn't a chair for me, Maya had told me, small and stunned. She'd driven herself in the rain, proud, carrying homemade cookies, and been offered the kitchen as consolation. I'd been the fixer, nurse by day, check writer by night, but helping turned into entitlement. My mother's barbs, "You think you're better than us with your degree," felt like punctures every time a transfer cleared. My sister's silence at the table was its own betrayal. Their social calendar bloomed. Maya's invitations withered. Finding Maya's leather journal was the cut I could no longer ignore. "All the cousins got Apple Watches. I got socks," she wrote. "Grandma said my art award wasn't real. She protected me by minimizing hurt. She spared me the truth until I could no longer pretend ignorance." Standing over the bank statements and property records, clarity arrived like a cold light. This wasn't charity. It was buying permission for them to hurt my child. The money no longer felt generous. It felt complicit. Protecting my family had become the very thing that harmed Maya. So I stopped asking whether I could afford to walk away. I asked whether I could afford not to. Maya's worth suddenly outweighed every check I'd written. I would not fund a family that taught my daughter she didn't belong. The morning after Christmas, the house was still. Snow fell outside our window like the silence that follows revelation. Michael poured coffee, his eyes scanning the spread of receipts and statements across the kitchen table. "Over $100,000, he murmured. There was no anger in his tone, just disbelief. "I kept thinking I was helping," I said quietly, "but I was just paying for the right to be insulted." He rested a hand on my shoulder. "Then let's stop." That's how it began, the slow, methodical unraveling of years of manipulation. I opened the filing cabinet I'd ignored for a decade and laid everything bare. Every check, every bill, every proof that kindness had been weaponized. Sarah, my attorney friend, arrived later that morning with a legal pad and calm authority. "The house is deeded in your name," she said, tapping the property tax statements. "They're tenants without a lease. You're legally entitled to reclaim it." My first instinct was guilt. They're my parents. Sarah met my eyes. "Is it guilt or conditioning?" Her words landed like truth disguised as mercy. Maya joined us later, sleepy but curious. I told her everything, the payments, the house, the decision. Her face softened, then strengthened. "Mom," she said quietly, "they've never made room for us. Maybe it's time we stop trying to sit at their table." I nodded. Somewhere inside me, a quiet fire began to grow. By afternoon, I'd written the first draft of the 60-day eviction notice. The sound of the printer echoed through the house like a heartbeat, steady, final. I signed it with a hand that no longer shook. The next day, I went to the bank. The manager looked surprised when I asked to terminate the automatic transfers. "You've been sending payments for 8 years," he said. "I know," I replied. "That ends today." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." I left the bank with printed proof, the last link between my paycheck and their entitlement officially severed. Back home, Maya was sketching by the window. Her drawing showed 2 trees, one with rotting branches, another sprouting green leaves. "Which one are we?" I asked. She smiled softly. "The one that's still growing." That night, I placed 2 envelopes on the kitchen counter, one addressed to my parents, one to my sister. Inside, formal notices, clear terms, 0 apologies. Michael poured wine and raised his glass. "To new traditions," he said. I clinked mine gently against his, to finally choosing peace. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the footprints that led away from everything we'd once mistaken for love. 3 days later, the storm hit, not of snow, but of family fury. The eviction notice had barely reached their mailbox before my phone erupted. First came the voicemails, my father's weary disappointment, my mother's shrill rage, my sister's voice laced with feigned concern. Then the texts. "You're destroying this family over one dinner. How could you do this to your parents at Christmas?" By noon, my inbox was flooded with messages from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone had posted about it on Facebook. Carla's post read, "Prayers needed for my elderly parents. My sister has turned her back on them. Some people forget who raised them." 17 shares before lunch. I didn't need to check the comments to know how they read. Ungrateful, heartless monster. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug gone cold, staring at the wall as if the wallpaper might offer absolution. For years, I'd been the good daughter, the nurse, the rescuer. Now I was the villain. Michael slid his phone across the table. "Don't look," he said. "They're twisting the story." "I already know how it ends," I whispered. "They've been writing this narrative my whole life." At the hospital, whispers followed me down the corridor. A coworker murmured that my mother had called, crying, saying she feared being homeless. Homeless, in the house I'd bought outright. The humiliation burned deeper than anger, a raw ache in my chest that made it hard to breathe. That night, the doorbell rang. Through the security camera Michael had installed, I saw Helen standing on the porch, hair wild, cheeks flushed with righteous fury. I opened the door only halfway. "This is how you repay everything we've done for you?" she spat, waving the crumpled notice. "You've done enough," I said quietly. Her voice dropped to a hiss. "You'll regret this when we're gone. I already regret every year I let you hurt my daughter." Her mouth fell open. For the first time in my life, my mother had no script to follow. I closed the door and locked it. The silence afterward felt holy, but the backlash didn't stop. Anonymous letters appeared in my mailbox. Elder abuse, ungrateful daughter, shame. The hospital board received a concerned citizen complaint questioning my mental stability. Michael's voice was steady through it all. "They can't touch your truth, Steph. You have proof. You have us." Maya tried to stay strong, but I found her one night sitting on her bed, sketchbook abandoned, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "Did I cause this?" she asked. I gathered her close. "No, sweetheart, you revealed it." That night, I wept in the dark, not from guilt, but from grief. Grief for the mother I'd never truly had, for the family that would rather destroy me than face their cruelty. But beneath the ache, something new was taking root. A fierce, unyielding calm. They could shame me. They could isolate me. But they couldn't unteach Maya what she'd just witnessed. A woman refusing to bow anymore. The silence after the storm was deceptive. I thought the worst had passed, until day 45 of the eviction notice. That's when the real war began. The call came from Carla. "Can we meet? Just us." Michael frowned when I told him. "You sure you want to face her alone?" I nodded. "I've spent my life afraid of them. I'm done hiding." The coffee shop hummed with ordinary life, clinking cups, distant laughter, a world so normal it made the chaos in my chest feel absurd. I set my phone on the table, recording app open beneath a photo of Maya smiling at her art show. The manila folder beside my cup held only what I needed: proof, dates, numbers, receipts. Carla swept in, smelling of expensive perfume and panic. "Steph," she said, forcing a smile, "you look exhausted. This whole thing with Mom, it's breaking her." I let the silence stretch. She filled it quickly. "They didn't mean to hurt Maya. It was just confusion. You know how Mom gets during the holidays." I leaned forward. "There were 26 chairs at that table, Carla. 26. None for Maya." Her smile cracked. "If you just stop this eviction, we can fix it. Maya can come to New Year's dinner. She'll have a place." I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, just clarity. She doesn't need a pity seat at a toxic table. I opened the folder and slid a single page toward her. "This is every check I've written since 2015. Mortgage, utilities, tuition for your kids. $124 of the $800 in total. Do you want to guess how much they've paid me back?" Carla's face went pale. "Steph, it's family." "No," I said softly. "It's exploitation disguised as love." She tried one more tactic. "You're really going to make your parents homeless?" "They're not homeless," I said. "They're capable adults with options. I'm just no longer their ATM." Her voice rose, brittle and sharp. "You've changed." "I've healed," I replied, gathering the papers. "And healing doesn't require permission." When I stood to leave, she reached out, desperate. "Please, just think about what this looks like." I turned back. "It looks like a woman protecting her child. That's what it looks like." By evening, the phone was buzzing again. Texts from relatives, voicemails laced with moral lectures. Uncle Robert called me heartless. Aunt Susan sent a Bible verse about honoring your parents. And then, as if the universe demanded a final test, the doorbell rang. Helen stood on my porch, flanked by 2 cousins like guards. Her face was tight, voice trembling with fury. "You'll regret this, Stephanie. We are your blood." "I know," I said. "That's why it took me this long." Maya appeared behind me, quiet but steady. "Grandma," she said softly, "we're done pretending." Helen's eyes darted to her, searching for weakness, but Maya didn't flinch. "Goodbye," my daughter said. I closed the door, locking it with hands that didn't shake this time. For the first time, guilt didn't follow, only relief. That night, as snow fell outside, I watched Maya sleep. Peaceful, safe. Michael whispered, "You did it." "No," I said, smiling faintly. "We did. We stopped the cycle." And somewhere deep inside, the echo of 26 empty chairs finally went silent. Day 60 arrived with no fireworks, just sunlight spilling across a quiet house. The moving truck in my parents' driveway rumbled softly as boxes thudded onto the curb. No yelling, no scenes, just the sound of endings. Helen wouldn't look at me. Raymond lifted a hand halfway in farewell before turning away. I stood beside Maya, my hand resting lightly on her shoulder. For once, I didn't feel anger, only release. 8 years of guilt dissolved into something weightless. When the truck disappeared down the street, Maya exhaled a shaky breath. "Is it over?" I smiled faintly. "No, honey, it's beginning." The next morning, the for sale sign went up on that house, not out of spite, but closure. I didn't need to own the place where kindness had been turned into currency. I needed to make space for peace. 2 years later, that peace had roots. Maya's laughter filled our new home, bright and effortless. College brochures covered our dining table, her fingers tracing the embossed logo of her dream school. "You think I can really do it?" she asked. "You already have," I told her. Our Christmas Eve dinners are different now. Smaller, warmer, honest. No empty chairs for people who once demanded loyalty as payment. The guests around our table have one thing in common: love that doesn't ask for sacrifice. That night, as friends' laughter rose around us, I caught Maya's eye. She smiled, the kind of smile that comes from freedom. I remembered that first Christmas, her coat still on, her cookies untouched, and realized we'd built something better than forgiveness. We'd built safety. Before bed, I added one last line to the journal I'd started that night 2 years ago. They said there was no room at the table for my daughter. Now, there's no room in our lives for cruelty. If this story reminds you that protecting peace isn't selfish, it's survival, then tap like, hit subscribe, and tell me, when did you finally choose yourself?